Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Ant Special. We have the starting five here. Myself, Brian. We have Amar, Dylan, Austin, Vladi. We're going to do something a little different this week. We're going to do a 2 versus 2 debate. We're going to have our teams. We're the Bring Your A Game cast with Amar and Austin. And then we're going to have Vladi and our new feature, our new guy to the starting five, Mr. Dylan Holloway. Dylan, real quick, go ahead and introduce yourself to the good folks.
Well, I'm Austin's older brother. I'm the better looking one. Currently going to school at Rutgers University for sports journalism. I got my 2-year degree in San Antonio where I covered men's and women's basketball, did some boxing there, covered natural sciences, covered a whole bunch of different stuff. I've got expertise in photography, writing stories, web, print. And I just love sports and I'm glad to be here.
All right. Without further ado, folks, let's get it going. Our first question today. After we all seen the Lakers win the championship, they look great doing it. Are they now the season favorites going into next year to win it all? You guys, Austin, Amar, y'all go ahead and go first.
You guys.
I was gonna go Vladi, Riverdale. You guys.
Go ahead. I'll go ahead and I'll say that the Lakers should be the favorite going into next season. And you know what I'll do? I'll look at it from the perspective of the LeBron James hater. So the LeBron James hater is going to tell you that Anthony Davis is clearly the best player on the Lakers, and he's the one that carried him to a championship, and he's the man on that team. So look at it this way. LeBron James averaged almost 30 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists in the final, shot almost 60% as a perimeter player. There's a guy on the team who's better than him, apparently, in Anthony Davis. So how is that team not going to be favored to win the championship?
There you go. So you're basically the pressure is on them now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, when you're talking, even if you just go from the rational standpoint, you do have 2 of the best top 5 to 7-ish, depending on your rankings, players in the entire world. You know what I mean? And at that point, Frank Vogel has also shown that he is more than capable of putting the right pieces on the court and making sure everybody touches the ball properly, except because, keep in mind, LeBron James is a ball dominant player. Rajon Rondo is a ball dominant player, and he slid into that role so beautifully through the playoffs. I can't say enough good things about him. And then you have Anthony Davis, who's just became this incredibly efficient player. So, yes, they absolutely have to have those expectations because LeBron James still hasn't, Father Time ain't beat him yet. You know what I mean? So it is bound to happen, but I think with a little bit of an off season coming up, et cetera, right, moves can be made. Yes, I absolutely think they have to be the favorites to win it all next year.
Now, I'd say the Lakers are obviously going to be in the mix, right? But the thing is, I don't think you can say that hands down they are the number 1 favorites to win the championship because the West is going to be so much tougher next year. The Nuggets are only going to get better and better. You got Michael Porter Jr. That guy, if he learns how to play any defense whatsoever, he's going to be a stud. That team is going to be a problem. The Clippers are going to be motivated, man. They got their coach fired. Doc Rivers, a Hall of Fame coach, got him fired. I think they got embarrassed. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, going to be motivated to come back. And also, let's not forget, the Golden State Warriors are coming through that door. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, the nucleus that won 73 games. Now, that is going to be an issue. And don't forget Portland, the Mavericks are getting better. It is not going to be a cakewalk for the Lakers. And you said Father Time has not caught up to LeBron James yet. Well, Father Time is undefeated last time I checked. Unblemished record. It's going to happen. Even if he doesn't fall off a cliff, this is not a Max Kellerman hot take. I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff. He's not going to be as good as he was last year. That's just how it works.
100%. I believe that there's no way. I think the Clippers this year were the best team in the league. For some reason, they just did not get it together. I think the embarrassment of them losing the way they did, I think they're going to come back so much stronger. And I would have them as the favorites because they saw they got revamped. I think Paul George is going to come into the season with a chip on his shoulder. People are laughing at him, the memes, everything. Like he did not show up. And you're going to have that kind of a weight on your shoulder. LeBron's proven that he's a top 5, top 3 player of all time. There's a lot less to prove for LeBron and AD at this point than there is for Paul George, for Kawhi Leonard, for the guys on that team. Tyronn Lue gave up, by the way, a coaching job with the Lakers, if you guys remember, because he didn't like the contract terms. Now he passed on that job with the LA Lakers because the management said they're going to pick his assistant coaches. Now he's going to go here, and he's going to go against the Lakers. His job now is to prove that he made the right decision. There's a lot of people's legacies on the line here with the Clippers, a lot of them. And I think that's going to feed their hunger, and that's going to feed their flame. And I have them as the favorites next.
See, here's what I'll tell you with that is that at the end of the day, yes, there may be a lot to prove, but let's be honest, playoff P was a thing far before this season, right? So I don't put a lot of stock or faith in that. Maybe Kawhi comes back, but hold on. But I don't put a lot of faith in that, and unless they can somehow get themselves a third star or major playmaker, shot creator, whatever, I just don't think that they're that team. As far as Golden State goes, we've got Klay Thompson coming off of a huge major injury, right? You also have Steph Curry, who even when he was healthy-ish, right, he definitely wasn't the Steph Curry that won back-to-back MVPs as far as and unanimous. And Draymond Green, that dude is washed. Let's just say he's washed, right? He is not what he was. So that's totally out of the equation. Then you go over to, let's say, Brooklyn with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. That whole experiment, just in the fact of their thought process on coaching, tells me all I need to know about what a disaster that team is going to be. So I'm just saying,
but you bring
LA's got it together, baby.
Yeah, you bring up playoff P, and that's a good argument. But come on, we didn't expect him to be that bad. He doesn't need to be great. He doesn't need to be 30 points a game. He needs to show the F up. If he showed up enough to shoot 35% from the field at least, they would have won that series. I mean, he was shooting 20 in his 20s in his field goal percentage. He couldn't make a three to save his life, hitting side and backboard and shit. Defensively, they weren't there. Kawhi Leonard was like the defensive player we saw. Energy wasn't there. And also, I think the fact that they were sitting all these games saying, hey, listen, we got us in the bag. We're going to rest. We're going to show up. Lou Will's going to the strip club. Kawhi got his big toe was hurt. So he's sitting out. I mean, I think this humbled them to where they're going to say, listen, we got to show up. We got to play at least 60-plus games together to get this to do. Hey, the Miami Heat lost their first run when they got the big team together, right? And you got to understand that these guys came together thinking we have this great team, we're going to win, and they blew it. They blew it because they didn't play together. They sat out. Everybody had injuries. Everybody wanted to rest. And when it came time to play, they didn't have the chemistry that we wanted them to have. And my issue with the coach was, I don't want to say his goddamn name, but my issue with him was he didn't rally them together. He let that happen. He allowed him to go to Lou Will to go to the strip club. He allowed this guy to rest on the bench. He didn't attack them for it. And I believe that Tyronn Lue's going to come in here and say, listen, guys, I'm not coming here. I did not give up a Lakers job. They would have gave me a title this year. Tyronn Lue would have had him the title this year. He gave up that job. He's taking this job. He's going to come in. He's going to keep these guys accountable, I believe. As much as I do not like Tyronn Lue, as I don't think he's that great of a coach maybe, but I do know he's ambitious, and ambitious people are going to keep people, hold people accountable. And as an ambitious dude that he is, he's not going to let these guys take days off. He's not going to let these guys go to Magic City. No. You're going to be at the goddamn gym. And X's and O's go out the window. X's and O's did not lose these Clippers this finals. It was the lack of accountability for these professional athletes to show up and perform. They weren't there.
One thing I got to bring up, though, because you mentioned shooting percentage, Anthony Davis in this past finals had a 50-40-90 series, like over 50% from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line. He's, like Austin said, he's like playing at a super efficient level right now. I don't see he's only getting better. We can say LeBron's getting worse because he's getting older. Anthony Davis is getting better. So they meet somewhere in the middle on that. LeBron's still going to be great. Anthony Davis is going to be greater than he was this year. And I mean, this isn't like a guarantee that the Lakers are going to win. It's just going into the season. Who's your favorite? Who would you pick? Who has to be ranked number one? And I'm like, in this case, the defending champs is going to be the team that you got to put on top.
Right. So you're going to Vegas tomorrow, Mar, is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Well, the only thing I give the Lakers, though, to be honest, is I do like Avery Bradley, and it's gonna be exciting to see him
Right.
back. And I think he's gonna fit
Yeah.
the system really well.
Well,
That's the
and
one
like
thing
I
that
said,
people
who
like.
knows what they do in the offseason? Maybe they go out and get themselves a
Mhm.
DeMar
They ain't got no goddamn money
DeRozan
left.
or whatever.
Well, they might be
you know?
losing a number of
They-
guys.
They've
Rajon
got
Rondo's
about
on his way out.
yeah. They have a lot of
Rajon
guys
Rondo, I mean,
that can be free agents, either
Yeah.
will or can be if they take their option. So I mean, they could have some money to play with, but even if they don't, if they bring back this core, most of their guys, I think like they're going to be the top ranked team in the league going in, as far as like your power rankings preseason and all that.
All right.
That's fair.
Well, that's the time on that segment. And remember, folks, we're going to do 10-minute segments just to kind of get both sides in, and we'll flow from there. And then you guys let us know, who do you think won, which team won. All right? We're going to go on to the next topic here. We have LeBron James. Has he changed the game? Has he revolutionized the NBA? Yes or no? We want to know your take. Go ahead, Vladi and Dylan.
All right. Has he revolutionized the game? I mean, when I think about revolutionizing the game, I think about either was it, the bringing popularity like the Magic versus Bird era, or maybe Michael Jordan bringing popularity, or maybe Stephen Curry with his three-point shoot. LeBron James is a phenomenal basketball player, but has he done anything different than, let's say, is he maybe just a better version of Larry Bird or Magic Johnson? Has he done anything that really basketball-wise extend the three-point line? Will Chamberlain, they said you cannot jump from the free line and dunk the ball anymore. That's revolutionizing the game. Has LeBron James done anything that said we're going to change these rules? I don't think so. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and I think he's going to go down as one of the top three. He's going to be a Mount Rushmore of basketball. But to say that he has taken this game and took it into a direction, has any rules been changed because of LeBron James? No. I mean, hey, he's been flopping. He's flopped. But, there's a couple. Ginobili was good at that too. So I mean, what has he done that really said, hey, Steph Curry shooting from the half court line? Well, that's changing the game because now Damian Lillard's doing it. Now there's other guys pulling up from half court saying, okay, this is now the new range because I created this little boundary that you guys thought wasn't accessible. Well, here I am. That is changing the basketball game. Will Chamberlain jumping from the free throw line and dunking the ball as a free throw shot. That is saying, whoa, shot blocks by Will Chamberlain. The ball's going to the hoop. I'm going to just jump up and throw it out. That is changing the game. LeBron James has been great at what he's done, but he has not changed the game at all. There's not one rule. There's not anything that's pushed into a different direction because LeBron James was on this was a basketball player, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. LeBron, one of the greatest ever. I'm fine if you say he's the greatest ever. He's probably going to have the best stats of all time. He's played for a long time. He's got 4 championships. He's one of the top 3 at the very least. If you don't say he's top 3, you're just absolutely hating, right? But in terms of how the game is played, he hasn't really changed it, right? He's a big guy who's one of the best passers we've ever seen. So is Magic Johnson. They haven't changed any rules. There's no LeBron James rule or anything like that. And that's not to take away anything from that he's done. But in terms of who has changed the game on the court in this era, I think of Steph Curry. Right now, people are shooting more threes than ever before. Kids are getting in the gym, jacking up threes, trying to be Steph Curry. Everybody wants to be that half court shooter now. Not everybody can be 6'8" and hammer home, a vicious dunk on somebody. Little kids can sit in the gym and go, hey, I could be Steph Curry. Theoretically, I could get good enough at a 3-point shot and do this, right? And like you said, Damian Lillard, he's like almost like a mini Steph Curry in terms of like his shooting percentage and everything from 3,
Even better,
half court shots Steph. And everything.
Yeah.
Right. In some games he has been better. In some years he has been better. But yeah, that's the Rockets shooting more threes than ever. And like people say, well, that's D'Antoni's system. Steve Nash, when he was running with Steve Nash and Mark Stoudemire, they didn't jack up that many threes. Right. They were the run and gun, but they weren't jacking up 1,000 threes a game. Mm-hmm. Steph Curry has undoubtedly changed how the game is played. Like it or don't like it, he's changed it.
Matter of fact, Steve Nash, to bring you to cover on that point, Steve Nash said recently in an interview that I was watching online, where he said, my biggest regret with that team was that we didn't shoot enough threes. Looking at today's basketball. Steve Nash said that after watching the Golden State Warriors do what they did, Houston Rockets do what they did. He's like, maybe if we could have really shot more threes, we could have won that title, right? And that shows that these guys are really architects in the game in that aspect.
Nash himself, I always thought, never shot enough. Didn't get his enough.
Yeah.
All right, bring your A game. You got these next 6 minutes. Let's hear your take.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with what you guys say as far as LeBron hasn't changed the way the game is played. I think he is the kind of player that maybe we haven't seen before. Like we haven't seen someone who is the size of Karl Malone, the athleticism of Dominique Wilkins and the skill of Magic Johnson, right?
Wow.
So on that level, it's unprecedented. But does he influence the way kids play the game? Does he influence the way, people watch the game? I'd say no. He hasn't made passing more popular. He hasn't made dunking more popular than it already is. So he's not like a Steph Curry in that sense. I'd say where LeBron has changed the game is off the court. I feel like with the way players do business, with the way players market themselves, with the way players are entrepreneurial, where they try to become the boss of their own career, see themselves as a brand, hire their team, put their guys on. I think all that stuff that LeBron has done, the way some players approach free agency, how they approach contracts, the length of contracts. I think he's changed the game in that sense, in like just how the business of basketball is done from the player's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron has put more power in the players' hands than anybody ever before him, and that's the thing when we talk about changing the game, right? It encompasses more than just when you're dribbling that ball on that hardwood floor. It just does. There's so much more that goes into it. Just like all of the things that we talk about, we don't just talk about the game itself. We talk about the offseason, the draft, the rumors, the trades, everything, when a player goes and takes a shit, if it's too runny, we're over here trying to figure out if he's got COVID or not. You know what I mean? Like it's just, there's so much more to it. And so that also embodies how LeBron James has changed the game in that aspect, players ever before. And again, like you said yourself, Dylan, like it or not, you know what I mean? Love it or hate it. Hold on. LeBron James has allowed these players to feel the empowerment to, if they want to go play with their boys down in Miami, or they want to go hook up in New York, or they decide, hey, we're going to all get together over here and do what we can to win a ring, whatever the case. Hey, we want to get together. Kawhi calls the Clippers and say, get my boy Paul George over there, and we got a deal. That in itself, that's the type of power that LeBron James has brought into the players' hands, and the type of moves that they have been, or that have allowed them to make. You know what I mean? So I'll change the game.
Well, and I'll give him that.
Go ahead.
And I'll give LeBron credit for he's taken a lot of those bullets for players who want to make those moves. You look at the move Kawhi Leonard made this past offseason, right? He leaves the team that he won a championship with, decides where he wants to go. He kind of dictates to the team who they should get so he can go. He teams up with another guy who, at the time, Paul George was like an MVP finalist. This is a core of the Clippers team that had already made the playoffs. So a lot of that stuff that Kawhi did, LeBron already, got bashed for, even if he didn't even do it in the same exact way. And people just say, oh, well, LeBron started it. Well, LeBron did it first. The same when Kevin Durant got bashed, it was the people who a lot of people who defended Kevin Durant were like, well, yeah, but LeBron started it. So if they give LeBron that credit for starting this, starting the trend, and I would say, no, I don't think he started the trend of free agency or anything like that.
Let me say
he wasn't the first.
One of my favorite book, pound for pound of all time, is Outliers: The Story of Success. And in that book, they give multiple examples. The one example that always stuck with me is they talk about how Bill Gates, Bill Joy, created the internet, and Steve Jobs were all born a month apart. Three biggest names in tech history. Well, that's interesting. Why is that? It was because they were at the right time, at the right place for their opportunities. When they were coming out of college, that's when tech was blowing up. With LeBron, same thing. He became this big influence because social media was blowing up, right when he was coming out of it. So Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, I think some didn't have Twitter. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have Facebook. They didn't have HBO shows where they could give their opinion out and where they could influence the next generation as much as LeBron does. Even Kobe did. Even Tim Duncan did. Because the Twitter, this little thing that blew up, because if you're going to tell me who created the first super team, it was Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, the big three, Paul Pierce. Well, the social media still wasn't as rampant at that point. When LeBron came out and did his thing, well, what that did was he came out the right time. When social media is what it is today, he has a show on HBO. He has all this stuff. And I believe that he's a product of today's, he's done a great job. whether you agree with him politically or not. He's done a great job pushing his brand in what direction he chooses to push it in, and a lot of people are going to follow him. But is that more him, or is that more that 2020 has Twitter, has Facebook, has YouTube, and has all of these platforms where you can carry his message?
Yeah, but you're not just talking about the marketability of himself. You're talking about the freedom and the power that he's put in the players' hands. And yes, social media allows him to get his message out or whatever. But Michael Jordan could have absolutely made that same kind of difference. Kobe at one point could have. Magic Johnson at one point. You know what I mean? But they didn't. And so I don't buy it. You know what I
saying
mean?
Jordan didn't take his talents to South Beach.
Yeah.
All right. That's our time
Jordan
on that.
didn't.
That's our time on that segment, folks. Here's our football segment of the show. We all saw Dak's crucial, nasty injury on Sunday. People from across the world in different sports and non-sports, everyone felt it and felt bad about it. I got to ask you, though, what does it do for the Cowboys on the field? Do they still have a chance to make the playoffs? Bring your A game. Let's hear your thoughts.
I'm going to say that they can't. Well, I mean, obviously, there's a chance. I mean, you got a division like the NFC East, and at this point, any of those teams can make the playoffs. But do I think the Cowboys will make the playoffs without Dak? I'm going to say no. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to take that spot because this is going to be a one. This is going to be a one team, like in college basketball, like a one bid league. This is going to be a division where one team makes the playoffs. I'll say it's going to be the Eagles. The record's not good right now. I think they're like 1-3-1. But if you look at it, Carson Wentz, his last 2 games, his QBR has been up a lot higher than it was the first 3 games. Miles Sanders, I think he was hurt for a while, but like his yards per carry is looking good. They got what's the Travis Fulgham, the receiver that just kind of came out of nowhere and is like all of a sudden, killing it. So the Eagles like kind of quietly are improving. And then pair that with the Cowboys, who are going to get worse. I mean, they lost Dak Prescott and they're replacing him with Andy Dalton. Like they're going to be worse. I mean, there's no way around that. And so just, by the end of the season, I just see the Eagles are going to be able to overtake Dallas and just take that playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. That's kind of where I'm at with that division as a whole. I mean, let's all be real. Yes, there's an absolute chance that Andy Dalton helps them win 3 more games and they end up winning the division, right? So, but, not only like what Amar has mentioned, in terms of some players kind of emerging, but you've also got, as of, 9 hours ago, Philadelphia Eagles injury report, you've got Deshaun Jackson, who's limited practice participation, Alshon Jeffrey, who's also limited, Avonte Maddox, Richard Rodgers, Darius Slay, right? And that's a concussion, limited practice. And then back to full practice. Keep in mind, the Eagles had a huge, like a ton of injury, like more injuries than any team that we've seen in a very injury-riddled season. But you've got Sean Bradley, Jamon Brown, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, obviously, Hassan Ridgeway, and Kevon Wallace, who have all come back. And so these are like as they get healthier, like Amar mentioned, they're getting better, like slowly but surely. Like all of these guys are going to fall back into the mix, and we're going to see Carson Wentz start to have his top targets back. We're going to see the defense, especially with a guy like Darius Slay, and then obviously we know the impact that Fletcher Cox has for that team. And then that's not even mentioning you have Marcus Epps, the safety, Lane Johnson, their tackle, Matt Pryor, their other offensive lineman, and Duke Riley, who didn't practice at all, but will be coming back at some point this season. So this team is going to get healthy, and we all know that this division isn't going to be won until weeks 14 through 17 or 18 or whatever. Like this is going to be a division that's going to be won right down at the wire, unless one of these teams, which is highly unlikely, goes on some crazy winning streak. But yeah, so when you lose a guy like Dak Prescott, who like carried this team, drug this team on his back, as literal and I can't even as literal as you could possibly think of, and in any kind of analogy that you can think of. And they still only won one game. I ended up with won 2 games now or whatever. But I mean, all things considered, what I mean. So I have a hard time thinking that a team losing their best player is going to edge out a team who is getting healthier with.
So I disagree. I mean, I have to disagree. Go ahead, Amar.
I was just gonna say those comebacks that Dallas makes with Dak Prescott probably don't happen with Andy Dalton.
Not even close.
So it's just a game they lose.
Yeah, but you're not going back and replaying old games.
This is
right,
what
Vladi,
I'm
it's your 5 minutes. This y'all's time. Go ahead.
So I'm going to say this real quick. Look, Dak Prescott did very well in garbage time with garbage points. We're down 30. We're going to make a bunch of plays happen. He's done that really well. My thing, I think, why this helps, well, doesn't help them, but can give the Cowboys. First of all, no team in this division has over 1 win. Let's start with that. So obviously, there's a chance they're going to make it. And I'm going to say now they finally have that chip off their shoulder where the pressure's off of them. Their best player is now hurt. So now they come out there, they're not playing with the same pressure, in my opinion. And in that shitty of a division, you still have a great receiving core. You still have a great running back. You still have a decent offensive line. Your defense has been horrible, but there's some good names there that eventually have to look in the mirror and say, why am I getting paid this money? You got a guy like Alden Smith who's playing out of his mind. But the big thing is this psychologically. This team is not going to these games with the same pressure that they were with Dak. With Dak, everybody's telling them you have to win the Super Bowl. You have to win 12 games. You guys are so stacked. Now they're saying, no, you guys your best player hurt. You aren't the same team anymore. Now we're going to give you an excuse to lose. Well, I think psychologically with this young core that they have of receivers and whatnot, this helps them. This helps them go into the game like, oh, look, nobody's looking at us anymore prime time saying that we should win this game. They're saying, oh, Dak is out. This team is done. And I think in the long term in this shitty division, that helps them.
Yeah, and the thing is, now that Andy Dalton has taken the helm, the red rifle, he is going to lead. Not can they make the playoffs? They will make the playoffs. The Cowboys are winning the NFC East. Book it right now. I'm not saying the Cowboys are world beaters, but the Eagles, I have no faith in whatsoever. No. Carson Wentz has 10 turnovers in 5 games. That's 2 turnovers a game. Somebody do math for me. How many turnovers is that in 16 games? 32 turnovers if he remains at this pace? I know you said he's getting some players back, but the Cowboys have injuries too. They're getting some players back. Last I checked, Leighton Vander Esch tried to do a full practice today, so apparently this guy's got superhuman Wolverine healing and is going to be coming back, and he's their best defensive player last time I checked. And the Cowboys, last time I checked, still have the best skill positions in the division. They still have Amari Cooper. They still have Zeke Elliott. I'll take that over Miles Sanders and Greg Ward, who I had to check my paper because I don't even really know who Greg Ward is. I mean, I don't know how you just have faith in like Carson Wentz is going to start just lighting it up now all of a sudden. They're 1-3-1. They've looked terrible so far.
And it's been Carson Wentz has been more mental than anything. It's not like you look at Carson Wentz's game tape. It's not like I get it. You don't have the players and they make mistakes. He's had mental errors. He's held on the ball too long. He's not throwing the right play. It's all mental with him. I don't know if you can change that.
A lot of that is hard to comprehend or hard to understand. When you got to understand when your entire like starting skill position players are all these are guys that he's practiced with, that he has a relationship. Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, who else? We've got their starting tackle, their starting guard. You know what I mean? Like these
Austin, the mistake he's made is not
starting center. They're starting center. So 3 of their 5 starting offensive line aren't even in the game.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Why
you can't tell me that but how is absolutely
Carson Wentz is throwing 9 picks because the starting guard's not in the game.
When you're not getting the protection, when you don't have the skill players that are getting open, when you don't have that same level of talent like those guys bring, then absolutely, because the relationship that a quarterback builds with their receivers, the trust that build in your offensive line, and you can't sit here and tell me that it's unwarranted and that
So this is
Carson
what I'm
Wentz is
saying.
getting
Not-
excellent
Going down-
protection.
not
Hey, going down the stretch, hold up, going down the stretch, this is exactly what I'm talking. What I started the segment with. The pressure is off the Cowboys. The pressure is on the Eagles. The Carson Wentz has been playing horrible. He's already in a mental fucking decline, and psychologically he's fucking for some reason because he's throwing these terrible. He's making bad decisions. Now you're going to be favored to win a division. The pressure is on you. Andy Dalton got shit to worry about. He's not supposed to win a division at this point because Dak is out. So
House
he's going
money,
into
baby.
more freelance. His head is in a better place. And when you're talking about a division, it's going to come down to the week 13 through week 17. That's what you're going to come down to. The pressure is going to be on Wentz. Andy Dalton's not supposed to be winning a division. Carson Wentz is. He's making the money. So when you're going to go down, if he's already folding under pressure in the first few games, he's having 2 turnovers a goddamn game, well, that's what's going to hurt him at the end. Andy Dalton can go out there and not do shit. And nobody's going to blame him because he's making $2.5 million a year compared to $30 million and some.
And even when the Eagles get back to full strength, the Cowboys, I still like their skill position players more. I'm just going to say that. I don't care unless Terrell Owens just shows up in his prime. I don't know. You're not scaring me.
Yeah.
All right, Crazy Ants fans, you guys get into the comments. Let us know what you think. Who won that debate? Which side really took it home for you, and who you agree with? Who made the better points? All right, we're gonna move on to our next point. Rookie quarterbacks this year. We want to know who's the better quarterback. Rookie, Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert? Vladi, Dylan, you guys let us know.
Let me start off with this real quick. So Herbert so far has not only played better teams, he's played better teams. He's looked really good down the stretch. I mean, the missed field goal didn't give him a W last week, but his rating so far is at 102.2, and Burrows is at 89.7, right? And Burrows not played anybody really that well, but Burrows played shitty teams compared to what Herbert. And just the eye test, man. This kid has freaking talent. I mean, he's poised. He can run. He's got the swagger. He got hit last game. Remember, he got hit on like a second down. I was watching. He gets up, kind of looks the guy, kind of shakes. I was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, there you go. He has the swagger. He's ready. He's comfortable. He's ready for the big lights. And, I wasn't like – I was kind of nervous for him because he came in off of that freak situation where the doctor fucked up. And in a situation like that, you haven't been pressed to start the week prior to his first start. He was a backup quarterback. The day of, they threw him into the Lions den, and he performed. And that to me, that day I said, listen, it's one thing if you prepare to start. It's another thing to say, listen, 2 hours before the game, hey, you got to get out there. Whoa, me? I've been playing second team all week, all preseason. And for him to come out there and be thrown to the Lions and perform the way he did against Kansas City, almost win that game. And since then, so played really good teams, playoff Cowboy teams played through the schedule, and he has looked phenomenal. Looked like a seasoned vet. I love this kid. I love his swagger. He got nice long hair. He's gonna make some Head and Shoulder commercial money. He's ready for the big lights.
I like Joe Burrow, but I love me some Justin Herbert. This guy is a stud. 6'6", 236 pounds. He can run. This guy could do anything. The Chargers must be over the moon to have had this guy fall in their lap. He's looked awesome. He looked awesome in prime time against the Saints with Drew Brees, a Hall of Famer on the other side of the field. They lost not because of him. They lost because they're the Chargers. They always find a way to lose. But they got the quarterback position solidified right now. And in terms of stats, Joe Burrow, his QBR, last I checked, 43 QBR compared to Justin Herbert's 74 QBR. He's outplaying him right now. I mean, you can't deny it. He's got more touchdowns in fewer games. And the guy, I think he's a star in the making right now.
And he's played better teams.
When they get a defense in LA, I keep wanting to say San Diego. I got to get used to that. But something that the Chargers can get used to is having Justin Herbert as their star quarterback, because it's only going to get better and better from here on out, baby.
100%.
So Vladi talked about Justin Herbert's going to get a Head and Shoulders deal. He's also going to get a Noxema deal, because I'm watching the game the other day and I'm like, this kid still has acne. Like, it's just me and Austin on Bring Your A Game, I think a couple weeks ago, talked about like sports moments that make you feel old. And when I'm watching like a
yeah.
when I'm watching a starting NFL quarterback that like has pimples, I'm just like, wow, okay, I'm old. Anyway, I still, and as great as Justin Herbert has been, I still take Joe Burrow, and I look at it like, and I'm looking at this from a perspective of if I'm the Bengals and I have that number 1 pick and I have a do-over, I'm still taking Joe Burrow.
Yes.
The Bengals, the way that Joe Burrow has played, a lot of it isn't necessarily on him. It's kind of like what Dylan said. It's the Bengals. You know, they have the number 1 pick for a reason. The situation that he's gone into, I don't think that if Justin Herbert is on this Bengals team, that he's doing any better than Joe Burrow is. You know, you talked about turnovers in the, you know, when we were talking about Carson Wentz. Joe Burrow's only thrown 3 interceptions all year. And he's thrown the ball a lot. I think that the Cleveland game, he threw the ball 61 times, no interceptions, 3 touchdowns in that game. Like, you know, he was the number 1
only
pick.
has 2 interceptions, doesn't he?
He's got 3.
He's got, like six
right.
touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Yeah.
Right.
You know, he was the number 1 pick for a reason. I mean, like one of the greatest college seasons that we've ever seen from a quarterback.
Yeah.
And he didn't lose that accuracy. He didn't lose, you know, what it was that made him that great at LSU. And yeah, you know, there's been some.
He has 2 interceptions. He has 2 interceptions. He's checked. Sorry, he has 2 interceptions.
Like there's been rough patches, you know, like in these first few games. But like, what do you expect for? Again, the guy who's the number 1 pick going to a team that was bad enough to have the number 1 pick. So no, I haven't seen enough from Justin Herbert to make me say, okay, you know what? Like I would take him over Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, I think Justin Herbert is like absolutely amazing in the spot that he's in. I think he's doing such an incredible job dealing with the pressures of becoming this NFL star, of taking on, you know, the role of kind of taking over the face of that franchise that desperately needs it since, you know, Phillip Rivers hadn't really been what we had come to know him as for the last couple of years. And then obviously there was nobody to assume that role once he left, right? So, I mean, no knock by any means on Justin Herbert. I think you're right. I think he is a star in the making. However, yes, I would still would have taken Joe Burrow over him as well. You know, a lot of the things that we have to also consider is the fact that the Chargers were that one team every year that had the talent, and no matter how bad their record was, they really weren't that bad of a team. You know, it's not like they were just getting blown out 40-3 every single game, right? Like it's a talented Chargers roster, you know, like he goes into, you know, Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry and a semi-decent offensive line. You've got Austin Eckler was there, you know, obviously he's hurt now, but granted, again, he's there. That's a talented player, you know, and then even on the defensive side of the ball, though it's not the best defense ever, you know, having a guy in Joey Bosa or that you know for without a doubt every single game he's getting at least 1 sack. At least that's been the trend. I mean, that's huge, right? The guy is a fucking beast, pardon my language. Like, it's nuts how good that guy is. And so, yes, I think Justin Herbert's doing a really good job with what he's got, but I also think Joe Burrow walked into a way worse situation. AJ Green has been an absolute shell of himself, right? They have kind of sort of started to figure out what to do with Mixon, which kind of blows my mind away. It's just like, give him the damn ball. You know, it's really that simple. Give him the ball and don't allow your rookie quarterback to throw the ball 62 times or whatever in a damn game. But he does not have near the pieces. And for him to still like be able to, for him to still do what he's done, at least statistically and decision wise and I mean, don't get me wrong. There's not a bad answer to this question, but I think, I would take Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert because I think in the long run, that investment, right, 5 years from now, I think Burrow pays back higher dividends.
Let's not act like the
Yeah.
Chargers is some stacked team, though. At the end of the day,
I didn't say they were.
They had a top pick
Dude,
as well. Like I know you're saying that they have talent.
they
You're
have
thinking
more
of the
talent
old
than the
Chargers
Bengals,
that
do
always
they
were
not?
loaded, but
Yeah.
the new Chargers aren't that loaded anymore.
Do they not
had
have
some
more
injuries on
talent than the
offensive line. You
Bengals?
mentioned Austin Eckler. Does Austin Eckler put fear in the hearts of defensive coordinators at night?
He should. He almost caught for 1,000
The
receiving
Bengals
yards
have
last
some
season.
weapons too, besides just AJ Green.
Who?
Tyler Boyd is coming on fire, man. That guy is a playmaker. That's why they're thinking about shipping AJ Green out of town right now.
Okay, one player.
Yeah, that's all they got.
Hey,
I mean,
neither of these teams are good. Both these guys are great. Neither of these teams are good, obviously, but both these guys are great. You can't have wrong answer, but I'm just telling you, just from the eye test, and also from the fact that Burrow knew he was going to be the starter from day one. Herbert got thrown into this thing 2 hours before the first game, and the way he's accepted that role, and the way he's just responded to that responsibility.
But did anybody really see Tyrod Taylor finishing this season? I mean, honestly.
I think, yeah, we knew Herbert was going to take over eventually. And then you can kind of go back to what you said earlier. Like, Herbert, yeah, he didn't know he was going to be the starter as soon as he did. And so he kind of has nothing to lose. Whereas Joe Burrow knew from the day that the Bengals got the number 1 pick that he was going to be the Bengals starting quarterback on day 1. And that's a kind of, as the number 1 pick, as I think he's from Ohio. So you've got this extra pressure of like leading your home, state team. Like, so, he's got more pressure on him right now than Justin Herbert. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say Justin Herbert's money because he is supposed to be their franchise guy, in the future. But yeah, he hasn't been like faced with it all offseason like Joe Burrow has.
If Herbert fails this season, then that's the narrative. Well, he kind of got thrown in. We didn't expect him to be that guy this year. Yep. It's a great experience for him to grow and learn, etc. If Burrow does, immediately you're like, well, I mean, they need to put
he might be a bust
around him, but he's showing some. You know what I mean? That is just 2 totally different levels of.
I don't know who do you think has a shorter leash right now, though, because Tyrod Taylor is a qualified starter. I don't even really know who the Bengals' backup is.
Oh, I mean, Herbert for sure has the shorter leash, without a doubt.
So
one bad game, and they're going to be like, well, yes and no.
Because a freak accident was caused Tyler Taylor to lose his job. His job.
But you're talking about that pressure of potential, a bad game. Yes, you'll get benched or whatever. Yes, the coach will kind of ream your butt or whatever. Joe Burrow, I mean, all of Cincinnati is
Joe Burrow is supposed to be Joe Burrow is supposed to be the savior of a franchise that is in like much worse shape than the Chargers is.
Right.
Hey, but to wrap this up really quick, though, I got to say this. At the end of the day, if these guys stay healthy, at the end of their rookie contracts, they're both getting $40 million plus a year. That's safe to say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there we go, guys. I think that kind of wraps that up for our football segment. We're going to tap into a little bit of baseball. I don't know about you guys, but I've really been following this Amy Barrett hearing. Senator Ben Sass actually brought up a funny point comparing it to the Houston Astros scandal. So that kind of brings me to my next point. I want to know from you guys. Obviously, we have the Astros in the ALCS. Does this change your mind on their cheating scandal, any? Does it do anything for you?
Yeah. I'm gonna say this. Look, they didn't only lose multiple pitchers. They started off really looking really bad. And on top of that, they haven't looked good on defense at all. Like Altuve's made some horrible mistakes in this year's alone. Gave some turnovers. But I'm looking at it like, if you're going to tell me this team is 2 games away, they're 3-2 as of today. By the time this thing is probably released, they might have lost the series by then, or they might have tied it up at 3-3. To say that you're going to come back with all the pressure, with all the anger. Now, I also say this. Their biggest blessing in disguise is COVID, because they don't have to go against the ruthless fans that they would have seen. That if they had full ballpark stadiums, the boos and the cheater chants would have been maybe drowning for mentally for some of those guys at whether they're walking to the batting cage or they're walking to the pitching mound. It could have been drowning with having the crowds hate you that much. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, just talking to the Mariners fans that I have before the COVID came out, everybody's excited to buy Houston Astros tickets just to go do the chants. They might have sold out. They might have been the sole purpose of a sellout for every away game. So COVID really saved them in that sense. But well, you can't tell me the team, cheat or not cheat. Well, they're right here. They can make this World Series and they can win it. They can win it. They started off really bad at the beginning because I think they went up 29-31. But if you look at the last 25% of that little 60 game bubble or whatever, they stepped it up. And as you get in the playoffs, you can see them picking it up. Offensively, they're there. Defensively, they're not. But they lost some pitchers. And me personally, I believe that baseball, I'm pro cheating until you get caught, right? I get it. You're trying, right? You're trying to win. And to tell me that other teams didn't cheat, everybody cheats. Baseball's been known. Spit on the ball, you yell out something if you see a sign. It's always been a part of baseball. I know they brought in technology into it, and everybody wants to expect like no other team is doing that. Well, I've read a lot of blogs and a lot of stuff. Insiders are saying that probably most teams are doing the same thing. They just didn't get caught. The Astros are in a legitimate position to win the World Series. Win or lose, they are not the same team on paper that they were when they won it. Cheating or not, they're just not the same team. They're not as good at the pitching position, not even close. They lost two of their best pitchers. They're in a position to win without that. So, listen, it changed my opinion. If they would have been kicked out the first round, I would have said, oh, shit. That's not the case. I think that a lot of baseball fans will say, look, this is a legit team and deserve the title they got because they were better then than they are today, and they have a chance to win it this year.
When's the last time a baseball team or even another sports team had this big of a target on their back? People ready to charge the Astros complex with pitchforks and torches, right? Everybody's so angry at them. And if you destroy the validity of the Astros championship, you got to destroy the validity of the New England Patriots with Spygate, Deflategate. There are other scandals, the Saints with Bountygate. There have been teams that have cheated before, performance-enhancing drugs. It happens, right? The Astros just happened to get caught. They got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Some people said that, well, now that they don't know which pitchers are coming, they're not going to make the playoffs, right? Not only did they make the playoffs, they're 2 games away from going back to the World Series. Come on, man. The proof is in the pudding. They look like a great team right now. Even if they lose tomorrow, I think this validates their championship and it validates them as a team.
I think that they are in the playoffs. They are close to the World Series. However, you just look at the difference between last season and this season. They were under 500 this year in the regular season. Granted, it was a shortened regular season and no fans and kind of a very different atmosphere. But they went from a 660 winning percentage to like 483. It's a big difference. In our upcoming episode of Bring Your A Game, Austin's going to teach you guys about WAR. He taught me about WAR. And I looked at some of the top players in the Astros from last season to this season. George Springer, his WAR goes from 6.4 to 1.9. Jose Altuve goes from 3.8 to negative 0.4. Alex Bregman goes from 9.1 to 0.8. Obviously, something drastic happened that made their production go way down, that made their win percentage go way down. And
absolutely.
Given what we know about what they were doing, it stands to reason that it was the sign stealing thing. And they do deserve credit for once they got into the playoffs, getting hot and getting to the position where they're in now, where they have a chance to go to the World Series, and like that's good for them. But to answer the main question, like it doesn't change my opinion, because my opinion was this, getting caught and theoretically not being able to steal signs like they were before is going to majorly affect them, and it did for the majority of the season.
Yeah, I agree, and that's in terms of the question itself, does it change your opinion on the Astros? They're cheaters. They're plain and simple cheaters. And don't get me wrong, like I understand that most teams are trying to find ways that they can get ahead. I get that, but we're not just in the the way that they cheated, right? Going so far above and beyond what most people are doing, but in the way that they handled it, and the way that the Stars handled it, and that you got Jose Altuve making up the most god awful, ridiculous, insane stories.
Bad tattoo.
This guy literally said he didn't want them to rip his shirt off because his girlfriend would get mad. Like,
I was embarrassed for him for that.
Shit like that. You know what I mean? Shit like that is just what, like, it blows me away and it disappoints me so much because you know what? At the end of the day, they got into the playoffs and they got hot. Why? Because they are talented. These guys are talented. It's just like the steroid excuse. People act like you slam a bunch of gear into your ass, and then all of a sudden, you can hit 500 a season. It doesn't work like that. Even when you are cheating and stealing signs and stuff, you still have to work out. You still have to practice. You still have to you still have to know how to hit 100-mile-an-hour fastball or see one, and then be able to crank a 80-mile-an-hour changeup like that. Like, you still have to be able to field. There's so many more facets to the game, and so I understand. Like, it is a talented team, and that's why, to me, it doesn't validate it, and it doesn't change my opinion, because the fact that they were and are a talented team, and they still stooped to that level, and then handled it the way they did, and then weaseled their way out of any form of punishment from the league. And oh my God, I don't even follow baseball that closely, and I wanted to just punch windows because I was like, how did they figure out how to keep their title, not get in trouble, not accept any punishment, but also say, yep, we did it. What are you going to do about it?
I think the other team is doing the same exact thing, and that's why the MLB didn't go down on them. That's a different conversation. I firmly believe that's baseball, man. You cheat when you can. You spit on the ball, you yell the sign out, you bang on garbage cans, you install a goddamn camera up there. I believe there's multiple teams in the league that were doing this. They got caught. That's all it was. I believe there's multiple teams doing it. And,
I don't know, man. There was pretty heavy confirmed reports that most of the teams, but most of the teams in the league knew this was going on, and it was a constant talking point in every dugout of like, these mother effers, it's just a matter of time before they get caught. I know they're doing this. It's like so I get maybe it and this is the problem, is that yes, stealing a sign while you're standing on second base and discovering what it is and relaying that information is not the same thing as hanging a camera, wiretapping, or putting a buzzer on your players, banging trash can, doing all these different things to give hints and clues to what the pitch is and what, like, those are very major. And again, right, you still have to have hand-eye coordination. You still have to have the power, the muscle memory, everything. So again, I don't want to take anything away from them in that regard, but at the end of the day, like, they were doing far too much cheating, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I don't care how many trash cans you bang on. I'm not hitting any of those fastballs, man.
Well, you could have hit a fastball to begin with.
I'm not in the slow.
He didn't need to go there. Austin didn't need to go there.
That was messed up.
Austin couldn't hit either. So
Austin didn't need to go there, man. That was a low blow for sure.